Welcome to Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Our show is all about the exciting world of real estate and in particular, how it relates to the luxury New York marketplace. But if you are not planning a real estate transaction in New York, we still have plenty of information you can use no matter where you are. Now, here's our show.
Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome my listeners and viewers in the United States and all around the world. I am Vince Rocco, and it is Tuesday here in New York City, so let's go behind the headlines and get the real story. But first, this is Talking New York Real Estate, the state of our industry. And up front today, the annual Hollywood Reporter Power Broker Awards celebrate the top real estate agents who excel in the high-stakes world of luxury property sales, particularly within the entertainment industry. Each year, these awards honor the most influential and successful real estate professionals who cater to celebrities, executives, and high-profile clients in New York City and Los Angeles and beyond. The Rising Star Award, which we're going to talk about today, highlights up-and-coming real estate professionals who are making significant waves in the luxury marketplace. This award is designed to recognize fresh talent, agents who demonstrate exceptional promise, innovation, and rapid success in the competitive world of high-end real estate. These rising stars are celebrated for their ability to close impressive deals, build strong client relationships, and bring a new perspective to the industry. The award positions its recipients as the next generation of elite agents, poised to shape the future of the luxury property market. The awards shine a spotlight on those who have mastered the art of selling the glamorous and exclusive properties that define a Hollywood type of living and lifestyle. And I have two agents who were nominated this year here at the table with me, and we will discuss and we will have all that and so much more as Talking New York Real Estate gets underway on this Tuesday morning. And in the news this morning, big week, New York City median rents for new leases fell again last month, and renters have a drop in mortgage rates to thank. A drop in mortgage rates, I did say that. Manhattan median rent slid year over year for the fourth time in 5 months, dropping 3.4% at $4,200, according to reports for Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens and their rental markets. Rents dipped because of lower mortgage rates, said Jonathan Miller, who is president and CEO of appraisal firm Miller Samuel, and he is the author of that report. Would-be buyers took advantage of more favorable rates and exited the rental market. As a result, landlords were under pressure to hold rents down to attract new renters. Let's see how that goes. 2/3 of the U.S.'s most exclusive zip codes saw real estate prices and multiple locations set new pricing records this year. That according to a new survey. Property Shark's newest ranking of the 100 most expensive zip codes in the United States appears to indicate that 2024 was a year of cautious growth for luxury real estate, said a senior writer on the staff. New York City remains the top city for pricey zip codes with 6 of them. It surpassed the city of Los Angeles last year. Hudson Square, no surprise, and Soho zip code retook the leading position in New York City with a $3.36 million median sale price. However, that is well below its 2017 peak. It ranked 23 nationally. Battery Park City and Tribeca zip codes were number 2 and number 3 in New York City, but saw their median sale prices drop under $3 million. And out on the east end of Long Island, Sagaponack and Watermill rank as number 2 and number 3 most expensive zip codes in the U.S. Go Hamptons. And finally, a bill that would upend rental broker fees has been revised and is heading to a vote. And some feel the latest version is worse than the original. Councilmember Che Ossie last Wednesday declared that his Fairness in Apartment Rentals Act, or FAIR, will pass on November 13th. He says forced broker fees in New York City are dead in 3 weeks. He posted that to his social media platform X. Ossie's original bill stated that agents could only be paid by the person who hires them. Well, a new version shared with the Real Deal clarifies what that means, and critics say it puts non-exclusive listings in jeopardy. You know what? In better news, let's go Yankees. And with me at the table today are Ryan Kaplan from Corcoran and Clifford Marks from Brown Harris Stevens.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at stephen@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. All right. So you know what? This is going to be a very interesting show. Great show. Two guys here, Cliff and Ryan. And we're going to talk about, the Hollywood Reporter Power Broker Awards. More importantly, the Rising Star Award. They're here in New York. They work in New York City. And all the rising stars that were nominated, we're going to talk a little bit about the process of that whole award ceremony. But after a break, I first want to introduce these guys and have them actually introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about their background, where they come from, what inspired them to get into real estate. This is, as I say almost every week, not an easy profession. It's very difficult, very complex, but you can grab it and make it your own and find the success that we need to survive and to become recognized and known by your colleagues to be, great agents and great people. That's even more important. Ryan, let me start with you. So, give the audience a little bit of a description of, I know your background, but tell us a little bit about your background, why you, came into the residential real estate industry and sort of what you find in it that's so intriguing and so interesting to make you want to continue.
Mm-hmm. So I always say that I'm an imposter broker. Again, you do, as you said, some of my backstory, but I came up the development track in the business. That was always what I intended to do. I went to school studying real estate and business, and then I was a minority partner in a boutique development company for almost a decade, leading up till COVID. And then my old partners retired. They were much older than I was, so they had their fill and their success. And it was not really a great development market right before COVID. By coincidence, obviously, we didn't know the virus was coming. And it didn't make sense for me to start my own fund and raise new money and go from there. So I wanted to pivot within the industry. And I had been doing mostly residential development, so that's where my expertise lied. And I decided to, by a very close friend's years of his insistence, to try the brokerage side of the business, which I frankly had been very hesitant to do. At first. And I kind of turned my nose up and I said, brokers are the used car salesmen of the real estate industry. I'm not interested in doing it.
Which we can get that reputation from time to time.
But the joke was on me. I should have done it sooner because I have way more fun and I've had a lot of success and it's been very rewarding. And as far as why do I stay with it? There's something so tangible about what we do. We get to everything from the properties that we deal with, the design side of it, if you're a creative and you like that stuff, to seeing your client's happiness and how they live in a space. It's just very interactive. It's very engaging. You become friends and you get to know a lot of the people you work with, which is also was a surprising reward I hadn't been expecting. So it really is just great. It's not easy, but it's great.
No, it's not easy, but picking up on your point where you become friendly or friends, really good friends with some of our colleagues. I worked in corporate America for years, and I thought I had friends at work. Right, not until I came into real estate. That I really, because I think we bond in certain ways because we know how complicated it can be or how difficult it can be. And we bond in certain ways. And I've made friends when I first joined this company 22 years ago, whatever it is already, my God, that are still dear friends. Yeah. Very, very good and dear friends. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. Cliff, give us your backstory a little bit. I know you a little bit. You work in my office and you work downtown in Gramercy. Give us a little bit about what inspired you to become a real estate agent, why, what your background was, and what keeps you going, moving forward, because we taste a little bit of success, but yet we want more.
Yeah, it's like a drug in some ways.
It is definitely a drug.
It's funny because I didn't know your background, Ryan, but it's actually we have a lot of overlaps. I started also in the development track, and when
I didn't know that. Okay.
And when I was in undergrad, I studied urban planning and finance and whatnot. So I loved real estate ever since I was a kid, and I wanted to get into it. And then when I started in the industry, it was in the development world as an analyst at a big development firm in Manhattan, in the commercial group at a predominantly residential developer. It's about 1.5 million square feet that we were doing. Repositioning, leasing, redevelopment, acquisition, disposition, just the whole basically bottom portion of the residential building. And I was doing that, and it was rewarding, and I was learning a ton. This is straight out of undergrad. And COVID happened. There's a few years in for me. And the market got funky, for the development world, for the commercial world. It definitely, turned it on its head. And I had a really good friend from childhood that I also went to undergrad with that was living in the city like me. And and she knew I was in the real estate world because I worked for a developer in Manhattan. Also, I had at that time I was already I went to undergrad in Binghamton, and I have some student rental properties that I was kind of, managing and purchasing and kind of dabbling in that world. And my friends knew about that. So she looked at me as a real estate guy and she said, Cliff, it's COVID. All the prices are, Manhattan seems like it's dropping and but I want to be here long term. Do you think it makes sense to buy an apartment now? And I was like, I think so, for sure. I mean, I think if you're going to be here for the long term, New York City is going to still be New York City. And this felt like a blip, even though it was definitely a spooky blip.
It was a hell of a buyer's market.
Yeah, it was. I mean, in hindsight, yeah. If only we had a crystal ball. But, so she said, what do you think the next step is for me? Do you think I should get a broker? And I was like, I'll be your broker. And then I signed up for the online licensing course that day after speaking with her. And then fast forward, got my license. Just like Ryan, you described it best, because when you're in the development world, you look at a residential broker, you're like, that's
they're all the same.
Yeah.
Now I look at developers, I'm like, they're awful.
But, it's not something I necessarily thought was going to be a career.
Right.
But I was trying it out, and the commercial market was funky, and I had this good friend who was a perfect opportunity to dive in, and then I connected with Rory at Halstead at the time.
Great guy.
And then we teamed up, and I was doing this one deal, but then I was loving it, and it became first of all, that was the first deal I closed in Chelsea.
Hey, listen, got to start somewhere, right?
And it was just something I just really kind of fell in love with, and it was just it felt like the right
shorter life cycle of success than development, right? Like a development project takes years of planning, but you raise money, you buy it, you entitle the project, you execute it, you sell it or lease it out. Brokering, it's much quicker. You get to see the success and fruits of your labor in a faster kind of tempo.
100%. Even though we say sometimes it takes forever to close a deal, or whatever.
Yeah. Try building a building.
No, but to your point, try building a building. I've worked with developers for 15 out of my 20-something years in the business. And yeah, you're absolutely correct. You're both on teams, okay? And there's always a big question about teams. I've said this before on the show. When I first came to the business, teams didn't exist. You might have had a couple of agents paired together as partners. I think for the first several years, back in the old Halstead days, I don't even know of a team. Today, it's like the norm. So when you guys came in, and I know you had a team, you're on a team, is the team concept, in your opinion, the best way to find success, the best way to stay motivated, or is it just something that you kind of got into because everybody was doing teams?
I think it depends on the purpose for why you're joining. If you're new to the industry, I think joining a team is a really great way to start.
I wanted to get into that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So sorry then to jump ahead.
No. Go ahead.
But I truly, if you don't have the resources, the expertise, the contacts to hit the ground running with business, then you join a team where you can share with people who have excess or overflow, learn from them, work on their deals.
The mentorship alone is incredible. And when you're working with an experienced agent, I came in brand new from corporate America. I thought I knew what I was doing. And you sit there and you think, okay, here's my phone, here's my computer, here's my desk. Why isn't the phone ringing?
Right. It's like day one. What do you do?
Who's not calling me?
And then as my business really grew, I had to create my own team because I did not have enough bandwidth to service all the people that wanted to work with me. So for me, it was out of necessity, I would say.
Yeah. So you joined a team right up front, right? Did you think it was...
At first, we weren't a formal team. Rory and I kind of...
You were just partners together.
Then it became, Rory formed a team.
But did you find it beneficial?
Oh, absolutely.
To be working with somebody at his stature. I mean, Rory is a damn good agent.
Rory was, doing it for about 10 years, and I was just getting into the residential brokerage side of it. I had a background in real estate, but not necessarily the brokerage, definitely not residential brokerage. If anything, it was a little bit more on the commercial side as far as brokerage went. And I think it was huge as far as mentorship, and it still is huge, mentorship and structure. I mean, this business is, especially if you're coming from a corporate background where it's so much more formulaic, right? In terms of, input equals this output, and that's what everyone's looking for, right? There's no cookie cutter approach to how you sell real estate in Manhattan, right? I mean,
there isn't, and I often say you also have to be kind of a structured person, even though this is not a structured job, right? I came from corporate America, so my head was always very structured. Because you can come in here and flop around and not know, like I said, here's my desk, here's my phone. Why isn't the phone ringing, right?
Right.
You got to kind of figure out what your strategy is, which leads me to the next question. In order to be successful, you wake up in the morning and you think about your day. You go to sleep at night and you think about what the day was, but what is tomorrow going to bring? How do you strategize, Ryan, for what you want to do tomorrow? Or how do you figure out whether today worked or not, and how can I do tomorrow better? Because this is what I have found in 22 years doing this. It really all comes down to strategy for yourself and then everybody else that you're involved with. In your case, a team, right? You got to keep everybody motivated.
I think, with many things in life, you'd go nuts if you're trying to see all ends, all potential. If I do this, then this will happen. If I try that. So I think the main principles for me is high quality service, which will lead to happy clients, which will lead to referrals. So doing my job well. And you're also constantly doing, I've talked about this with guys on my team. You're fertilizing seeds for the future all the time. You're building relationships. Sometimes people reach out saying, "Hey, I'm not ready to buy yet," or "This is just a small little rental. Can I get your advice on this and that?" You have no idea when that person is turning into a client tomorrow, a year from now. You work with someone, they change their mind, they want to rent for a bit, then they're going to buy down the road. But they have someone who wants to sell tomorrow that they're going to refer to you. So there's no way to predict and fully, properly strategize what's going to happen all the time. But again, it's about being broad, having exposure, doing a good job.
Being aware.
Yeah. And reactive as things come in. So if I tried to strategize every single day for my next day, I'd always be wrong because I never know what's coming.
Yeah. This is the fun part of this.
It is the fun part. Yeah. You have to be on your toes.
It's the fun part, and it's the unknown that I've said for years that kind of keeps me on my toes. Like, you wake up in the morning and you think your day is going to be this way. And then before you know it, it's all the way over here. Right. Not always a bad thing, sometimes a good thing, but you just don't know where things are going to go. Along the lines of strategy, how do you stay on top of market trends? I mean, market trends is such a big word. Everybody talks about trend. Sometimes trends are good, sometimes they're not. How do you stay on top of the trends and the shift in the ongoing real estate landscape? I mean, you can go from one year to the next, a good market, a bad market. Yeah. How do you deal with the shifting around of the lay of our land?
Yeah, totally. Well, let's start with the trend thing. I mean, as far as like a day-to-day goes, me and everyone I know that I work with on our team, we have a kind of a system where the first thing we're doing in the morning is checking all the new listings that came on the market. And then then at least for me personally, I'm going to do it again in like the early afternoon, and then I'm going to do it again at night. And I'm doing that because there's always buyers that I'm working with, and to Ryan's point, not everyone's 100% going to be buying right now, but if they want to be engaged, they want to stay up to date on the market, then maybe it's a very specific product they're looking for. They don't want to watch the market every day. They want us to watch the market for them. So they want to kind of understand what's going on. So just staying extremely plugged into the market, I think, has been a really helpful for my clients and for me to form that deep relationship with the clients. As far as our market being volatile. I mean, look, I got into this during COVID. It sounds like you did too. I think it's been like a roller coaster since COVID. I mean, it's been,
certainly not consistent, but a roller coaster for sure.
Right. Yeah. And the thing with, being in the brokerage world is that we're guiding people to be able to execute the best deal possible for them, whether it's, a buyer or a seller. And so while the market could shift around, someone is, it's usually favoring one party, right? So we can kind of do everything we can to maximize it for that party and make it make sense for them. People need to buy and sell at all different times, but how do you make the most of the current market condition and get the most, that you can get or at the lowest price possible if you're talking about a buyer. So, just really understanding where the inventory's at in the different neighborhood you're in, understanding where the active comparable listings are, what's in contract, what recently sold. I mean, and there's so many, especially for us, came from a commercial background, which was much more, I think, about the numbers. And at least for me, not that residential is not a quantifiable and a numbers-driven approach. But there's a lot of qualitative in resi too, right? You know, what's the condition of the apartment? Has it been fully renovated? And you know, since COVID, apartments that need a lot of work have been having a harder time to sell. So I mean, that's just a general trend we've been seeing since COVID. So you know, just staying abreast of what's been moving and what's been helping that product move. You know, how did that go into contract and why isn't ours, if that's the case, and what's really the difference?
It's always, why isn't mine going into contract so quickly? Right? What are we not doing right? When I say trends and when I say shifts in the landscape of our business, what does that translate to you? How do you deal with one of the things I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, was the only consistency in our business, I believe, is change.
Yeah. But I mean, I agree. The last couple of years since COVID, it's been unusually like the oscillating between. It was like we said before, it was an amazing buyer's market when everyone thought. You remember the rhetoric, New York is dead, which was you never bet against New York. It was stupid.
I used to laugh out loud at that.
I actually did an interview with I think it was Fox Business during that time, betting that anyone who bought then was going to make a killing, and every one of my clients. I'm so glad I was on the record saying it because I look smart in hindsight, but it was.
You are smart.
Thank you. But it was a crazy buyer's market then. Then suddenly everyone got vaccinated. New York isn't dead. They want to come back to the city. And then it was a crazy seller's market. Then they quadrupled or tripled interest rates. And then it became a buyer's market again. And now we're so like, it's just been all over the place. So trends is chaos, right? I mean, it's
total chaos.
Legislation changing in our industry, which you mentioned at the opening with different laws that could change how rental agents do business. We had a major change this year, which I know has been discussed on the show about how buyers and sellers brokers are doing business with their commissions. So I mean, it's how do you keep up with the trends? I guess it's the same answer as how do you strategize? You be reactive, you be on your toes.
I think you just keep a cool head and you just, pay attention to what you need to pay attention to today. I never really look at the market, so to speak, unless it's really, really bad, and think, oh, God, this is going to be killing. This is not going to, you just keep a positive attitude and say, hey, we got to move forward. In this town, okay, New York is not dead, as you indicated, but people always have a need to buy or sell real estate or rent real estate. There's always going to be something happening. We have to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to get into the Power Broker Awards, the Rising Star Awards, and talk to two nominees right after these messages. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the Moore Network. Don't go anywhere.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the awards, and then we're going to talk a little more about their personal careers. But, the Power Broker Awards, I want to just read off a couple of them, a couple of the categories. So Stratospheric Sale Award nominees, okay. Penthouse Sale of the Year, Agent of Historic Architecture, okay. Celebrity Property Portfolio Awards, Media Maverick Award, and these two guys here, part of the Rising Star Awards. And, that's what I want to focus on today because I've always believed in rising stars. You are, I believe, a Rebney Rookie of the Year and a Brown Harris Stevens Rookie of the Year. So, two tremendous successful agents here. But if I can ask you both, how do nominees for the Rising Star get selected? I mean, there are lots of popular agents out there, lots of really good agents out there, but not everybody can be nominated, and not everybody is worthy of nomination, right? So what is it that they look at and for nomination purposes?
I asked the same question when I was nominated because I didn't know I was getting nominated. I just found out when the press release came out.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I was like, what? It's an amalgamation of things. It is the scale of deals that you're doing. It's the profile of the clients that have chosen to work with you. It also has to do with the level of media coverage and branding that you've succeeded in garnishing. How exposed.
And you're good at that, by the way.
And
that's how I met him. Okay, media, emails, marketing.
Because I'm sure there's some agents who've had one singular deal that was bigger in a year than any of my singular deals were, but it was everything as a package. And then specifically, and this is my favorite part, they wanted people who they considered young, and I found out I made the cutoff by 1 year, so I actually couldn't.
It's under 35 or under 30? I can't remember.
It's 35 and under.
35
I turned
and under,
35.
okay.
So I was.
You're so old.
I know. So
what should I say?
I wouldn't qualify if it was like 6 months from now. So anyway, that was the most important qualifier.
Exactly, of course. Felt good.
Yeah.
And for you? I mean, again, first of all, before you get into the Rising Star, how did you become Rookie of the Year for the Real Estate Board of New York? Not so easy to do, okay?
Thank you.
And you
appreciate
won.
That.
How'd you do that?
Yeah. I wasn't part of the nominating process. I think that I was honored to be nominated by Brown. So the way with it, REBNY, the Real Estate Board of New York, that's our trade association here in New York City. The way that process works is the different brokerages that are members of REBNY, I believe they nominate agents from within their firm, and
That's
then
correct.
they get put forth to REBNY, and then there's a group of nominees, which I was honored to even be included as part of that. And then from there was, actually more of an interview process, and they did want to hear a lot of specifics about deals that were closed, story of how we got into the industry. I didn't get to hear all the details of the other nominees who were all awesome. I got to meet them at the award ceremony.
I was at that ceremony. I remember when you won.
That was fun. Thank you. Yeah. That was 2021. So, yeah. And then I was surprised. I mean, I was amazed, and it was an honor.
It is. Now take that success, which you've continued, obviously, for a few years, and take it to the nominee of Rising Star. Ryan said he didn't really even know until he knew. What about you?
Yeah, I saw the article.
I saw the article. I'm like, oh, okay. I think I texted you and said, hey, what's this? What's happening?
I think
Like you tell me.
Yeah. Did you win?
Yeah. I think the Society Group, I know the Society Group, works in partnership with the Hollywood Reporter to put on this awesome event. I believe it was the Society Group that reached out to let me know that I was a nominee, which was a huge honor. I think for me, probably part of it was the REBNY Rookie of the Year award. I also did not know about the 35 and under. Definitely fit into that box. But yeah, no. I mean, look,
I'm feeling very old here.
I didn't mean to.
Which I am not. No.
It was just, for me, it was an honor to be in that room. I mean, they're huge players in the industry.
We're looking at the names. I thought, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
And throughout all the awards, right?
Yeah.
It's a very big list of power names, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I can only just imagine how you feel being a part of that. And even if you don't win, you're part of that group. We'll get into that in a little bit, but you're part of the elite. And I use the word meaningfully. I mean, elite group of agents in this town. And given the fact that you don't even nominate yourself or put yourself in for nomination, it just comes to you. That's got to be quite the honor. Again, I don't know, the last time I looked, I think we're at 35,000 agents in this town. I mean, of course, just like Hollywood, right? 20% of whatever, 100% are actually working, but that's still a big number.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, if you do win that award, what does it do for you? I mean, just a nomination, does it set you aside for potentially coming back next year or setting yourself up for other awards in the future?
It's funny. I was thinking about it, like comparing it to like winning an Oscar or winning a Grammy, although obviously it's completely, it's not that.
Well, in our industry,
They give you a cool trophy, kind of similar.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like, I was like,
A trophy's a trophy. That's all that matters.
Didn't One Direction come in second place? I'm glad this is the first time we're talking about One Direction on this
Right.
podcast, I'm sure. But like, didn't they come in second place, but then they still went on to be more successful or whatever the show is?
Yes, they did.
So winning's nice, but I think it's more so just being included and recognized in the group is enough prestige, and you'll make with it the same whether you win or you lose it. But it's more so just kind of being.
I mean, my reaction to when I saw you're on that list, and again, I said I text him, I'm like, yay, I know somebody who's really doing so well, whatever. I know a lot of people, but yay. Did you get that reaction from people, that you bump into now on showings or that come to see you and you're listing? Do people mention it or do they kind of not even see it?
I mean, because a lot of what we do from a PR standpoint is trade stuff. It's industry. It's the real deal. It's curbed. It's whatever. The Hollywood Reporter is a major periodical, so it kind of takes awareness and recognition to I think a much grander audience, and there's a glitz to it. It says, hey, you're not just doing business, you're doing business with some of
certain people,
most known people in the world, and it has absolutely.
As I said at the top, and one of the things again when I first saw that announcement, Hollywood Reporter, I'm like, okay, anything Hollywood will get my attention in a heartbeat, right? So I saw that topic and I said, oops, and then I see his name on there, and then your name on there. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? it has prestige, and like you said, you're representing or you're selling to or renting to high-profile celebrities, very high-level executives, sports people, and we've all dabbled in that a little bit. Going forward, though, does it kind of do something to you? Meaning, not from an ego perspective, but do you feel like you're now in competition with yourself to do better next year and better next year? Same thing for you when you won the the Rookie of the Year. How do I best that? How do I get to the next level? What does it do for you, like going forward tomorrow or after the awards were done?
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, here we go again.
I mean, I feel like, in this industry, you are always competing with yourself to do better.
Always.
I mean, you're looking at your year and you're just trying to do better than you did last year, and help more people and work with more people and form new relationships. And, to Ryan's point in the beginning, you mentioned, well, development's a longer life cycle. It takes 5 years to build a building. I have relationships that I've been working for 4 or 5 years already that, we're still working on, and we're, and every now and then we'll meet up for coffee or we'll get a dinner. But I mean, this is, it's funny in the beginning when I first was thinking about switching over from the more corporate real estate to the residential brokerage world. Rory, who I work closely with, Rory Clark on his team. He said to me, it's really more of a lifestyle, not a job. And I was like, that's the corniest thing I've ever heard.
Indeed, until you really start practicing and then you realize what it is.
It is so true, as far as it's an all-encompassing career, right?
You never know when you're going to meet a client.
You never know, and you never know.
Never.
I have some wild stories.
Right, and New York is such a global real estate market. People from around the world are really looking to buy here, to live here, to have a place here as a kind of safe city to park money. And I'm kind of blessed to have clients from all over the world. So we'll get calls and you don't expect it, and it'll be for a different time zone at a different time of the day, and it's just and that'll just redirect your day, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But as far as what the awards I think can do moving forward, I think it was an honor to be on that list. It was an honor to be in that room. I think the Rebney Rookie of the Year kind of helped set me up for that. And BHS really was a huge part of that for me. They first gave me I think they call it Rising Star Award when I think it was 2020 and COVID. My managing director, Sarah Rotter, is the best. Like, she's been in my corner the whole time.
Don't tell me about Sarah. Love.
She's awesome.
But you're right. The awards kind of compound. Like, I had been on Eklund Gomes before I started my own team, and I won Rookie of the Year my first year there. And then Street Easy, I won a couple of years in a row, #1 buyer's expert in the city. So you don't know what it leads to something else. And obviously you hope it leads to more client eventually, but
it always does. But like you said, you've got great stories. You've got great stories. I've got great stories about how, you find your next lead sometimes, right? And not to get into all the weeds, but you don't know. Like I said before, when you first start, you say, how come my phone's not ringing? Who's going? I used to say to people, who are you? Why are they going to call you? Why are they going to call you? You're just, you. Yeah. You got to make yourself be, aware and in people's minds. But I think what you guys have done or achieved so far in a very young age category, not many years in the business, right? You're both not in the business, under 10 years, right? In the residential side.
In the brokerage side, it's only been, do you even count 2020? We couldn't even broker.
We couldn't even do anything.
Yeah,
I know.
it's been 4 years.
And there you go. Okay. You see that? Really? Okay. It can be done, but you got to pay attention to it. So it's interesting because, the Rising Star Award gets my attention for all the reasons why we've talked about it. There were some of the other categories that we chatted about, but these are people who have been in the business for 100 years and do special things. But you must feel honored to be designated as a rising star. At some point, you're not going to be a rising star anymore. You become a star, right? And you will continue to do that. What kind of pressure does that put on you going forward, right?
Yeah.
What do you envision your business to look like, say, 5 years from now?
It definitely was an honor. I think it'll like I said, when we were just talking about it, it's always a little bit of pressure to build. Yeah. This is not, a corporate job where you're getting, a salary and you're, so there's always pressure to build on last year, to grow and continue to grow your career and do more business and work with more people and continue to grow. I think And that's my goal, to just continue growing year over year. I mean, it's been a rocky few years as far as the market goes.
Well, the market, yeah.
2020 was, one of the slowest years as far as transaction volume in Manhattan.
Dead.
Right. So and then it kind of swung back up, and activity started coming down, and then the interest rates rose, and then the market contracted, and it became a much slower time as far as volume and activity goes. But meanwhile, because we've been very focused on the business, very focused on the clients, our business has continued to grow despite the market fluctuating and everything. So I think it's just about focusing on the day-to-day, focusing on the client services. To Ryan's point in the beginning, our whole job is to make the experience as smooth and successful as possible for our clients. And I think prioritizing the client's long-term success rather than a short-term deal or anything is always served me well. And I think that is going to be, the focus we continue to do in the years ahead. And I think hopefully, it'll result positively, hopefully.
Ryan, so we talk about special qualities, you talk about special skills. Clearly you have them. When you think about what you've done so far in a relatively short period of time, the success you found, where do you see your business going based on that established success already? Where do you see that 5 years from now? I mean, obviously, it will hopefully grow to a point where, you're much bigger than today. But where do you see that going? And, kind of like, how are you going to get there?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest answer, of course, is continued growth. But I realize that's not an interesting explanation.
Well.
But my business, and this has been unusual, is I've had significant growth every year since I started. I haven't had a down year yet, and that's not normal, and it won't be that way forever. It can't possibly be that way. I mean, try being the CEO of a company and telling your shareholders we're going to just grow every year. It just doesn't work. Doesn't work like that. I think that the changes in a lot of the landscape that we referred to earlier in this conversation will be interesting to navigate through. I think that a lot of people are going to leave the industry because of some of the complications with how commissions are structured, et cetera. But I also think it's going to leave the best of the best in the business. I think the expectations of what a broker is supposed to provide are going to be raised, and I think there's going to be a higher quality of service all around based on who's left. So I think it's going to be more growth. I think the team is going to keep getting bigger. Because of my background on the residential development side, I have found in the last 6 to 9 months, a lot of developers have found out about me as one of their own that crossed over to the other side and speaks their language and can kind of talk to the institutional guys, but also understands what buyers and sellers want. And a lot of them are calling me. Their equity capital partners are calling me to underwrite deals, to fact check, sanity check comps that they're being told. So we have a couple developers now that have projects in the pipeline that I expect we'll be representing, or some of them I already know we will be. So I think we're going to see, for me personally, my team's business is going to expand a lot to the institutional side.
Talk a little bit about the development side of our business, because for a long time, just like everything else, it was down a bit.
Yeah.
Right? I spent many, many years selling brand new developments almost exclusively, one after the other, for our department here. And then all of a sudden and I think COVID had something to do with that, right?
Yeah.
A lot to do with it, just like everything else. But talk a little bit about where you see the development. I mean, it's picking up again, which is a fortunate thing. I mean, just like anybody else out there, developers have to take an interest rate as well.
Right.
And, they got to find profitability. So they're a little skittish about paying a little too much, rightfully so. Where do you see development going forward?
Yeah, well, no, I actually think that we're poised for another upcycle on the development side. We had quarantine, which made it logistically impossible on some sites to do work. Then, as you correctly alluded to, financing costs have become so expensive, developers can't afford to build and make a profit.
Correct.
So that stunted it. So now we have this huge dearth of quality supply in the city. So I expect once rates continue to come down and it makes building more palatable, and also more palatable for buyers to finance their own purchases of said product the developers build, that we are going to see, I don't know if it'll be quite like, call it 2014 to 2016 where it was nuts, but I do think that we're poised for an upcycle on the development side.
I absolutely agree with that. All right, we have to take a quick break. We're not going anywhere. On the other side, we're going to talk about representing the luxury high-end client on the residential side which both of these guys do. Don't go anywhere. Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network is coming right back.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place, the More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting getmorenetwork.com.
All right, so Cliff, let me ask you, again, talking about the high end or the luxury, clientele out there, there's all kind of price points. I've debated for years. You all look at a certain report every week. $4 million and up defines the high end market. I think it's a little higher than $4 million, a lot higher than $4 million, because that's where we've come through the years, or at least through the years that I'm in the business. I don't know what the right number is, but I think it's better than $4 million. But anyway, what challenges do you face, on a regular basis when you're working with a very high-end client? Are they more difficult? Are they easier? Do they want specific things that maybe aren't achievable? What's been your experience on that from a challenge perspective?
I mean, I think that, my clients, they really run the gamut. So first-time buyers looking to buy,
Correct.
one bedroom to, more senior executives, or, very established folks who have bought and sold over and over, and they know what they want, and their budget is much higher, is what you're talking about, kind of the luxury end of it. We don't really treat them any differently, honestly. I think we give everyone 110% of energy, effort, time, and focus. And I think that kind of irrespective of the price point, every buyer, it sounds like you're talking about on the buy side, is looking for an agent that's attentive, that understands what they're looking for, that understands the product and the market that's out there, that understands the negotiating points in the market environment, especially when you get to the new development world, and then there's a little bit more to negotiate. And who's just really looking out for their best interests. And I think that, very high-end clients are maybe used to a little bit more of a high-end service. But we try to, at least I personally try to bring that high-end service to all of my clients. I think it takes just as much work selling a $5 million place as it does selling a $500,000 place from my experience.
It certainly does.
It's slightly different conversation and focus points, but it's the work is the work. And I think that just my whole thing with my clients, especially on the buy side, is just a uber attentiveness to what they're looking for, and just access to me to be able to talk through. I find that a more
Very
of a luxury
important.
client is looking to have a 24/7 access, and that's okay. I'm there to answer questions. I'm there to calm nerves. I'm there to make sure they have all the information that they need when they need it, and that's our job. And I think that it's really just focusing on the client, and then the rest kind of falls into place. And I think that that's true for the most high end clients I've worked with.
Challenges, Ryan. I mean, they could be not bad all the time, right? We can grow based on challenges, right? So how do you handle, the challenges in your day-to-day with the higher end? As Cliff said, a $500,000 studio can be just as challenging as a $5 million apartment, but a challenge is a challenge. So how do you look at that every day?
Yeah, no, I agree to your point where you treat everyone the same, but there's certain nuances that I've found that don't exist certainly at most of the lower price point clients. It could be anything ranging from privacy of that person's identity, when you're trying to, people love to hear about who's buying what and at what price. Last year we had many high-profile transactions. One in particular made it to the press, which was very hard to keep it out, and we still don't know how, but we were able to cover up, protect everyone's identities for 99% of them, which is important. Also, I find that people at higher price points, there can be a little bit of a paranoia of not wanting to be taken advantage of. I'm so wealthy that I specifically want to make sure I'm not overspending, that they know who I am. There was a deal last year that, I'm referring to one that was covered in the Wall Street Journal, so I won't say the name, but in any event, it was a $20 million purchase, and we fought over $25,000. Yeah. I mean, at one point you're like, as a percentage of the deal.
It's amazing, but that's what happens.
But it was about protecting the integrity of the deal, what they should be spending, what it was actually worth. So there can be, again, this paranoia or ego or just fairness that you're especially trying to protect. So, I mean, it can come in so many different forms, the challenges.
We talked about relationships before a little bit and how it's important for colleagues, in the business to like each other, love your co-broker, as I always say, work hand in hand. Networking is a very big part of our business, as I keep saying, throughout this program today. Why isn't my phone ringing? Okay, well, who are you, right? How do you network, and how do you network successfully? I mean, are you out there with the hope that wherever you are, you might be meeting that next client, or do you just kind of be yourself and do your thing and hope that clients are going to come to you, or is it a combination of both?
I think if you're going out into the world too specifically thinking I'm networking right now, you won't come off authentic.
Correct.
So absolutely. I think it's more so understanding at any given point you could be meeting someone, but almost making that dull noise in the background and being yourself, being really smart, being likable, being competent, and that does the networking for you. I mean, I was thinking of a funny story before. We were saying, again, you never know where you're going to meet someone. I was with a couple of friends in the Hamptons. This was a great story a couple summers ago. And a celebrity and his son launched a rosé line. And a friend of mine was somehow invited to this launch party, and we crashed it. We were like almost thrown out. That celebrity and their client are now, and their kid are now clients of mine. So I didn't go there expecting. That was actually before I was a broker. Right. So you just never know what weird situation you're gonna find a client in.
You never do. Anywhere you are in the world sometimes, right? You just never know. What about you? How important is networking in your day-to-day?
Yeah.
Do you think about it when you're out there, or, as Ryan said, look, it happens or not?
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, to your point in the beginning about relationships within the industry and other brokers, I mean, I think it's huge. I think it's really important. And in a very competitive bidding situation, it may be a difference between your client actually landing the deal or not. If you have a good relationship, if the other broker is looking at you as someone that's going to help get your client to the closing table. And I've seen that already play out with clients of mine, how important a relationship with a co-broker can be. As far as that, to that end, I got pretty involved with Rebney after I was awarded that. Well, even before I was involved with Rebney, but once I was awarded the Rookie of the Year in 21, I joined some committees and some councils and things. So that was really helpful with meeting other agents, some agents that have been in the industry for decades longer than me. And I think that that's been helpful because, you go to a showing and even making appointment requests or, you just having a relationship is more helpful. People are willing to kind of bend over backwards for you a little bit more if they know who you are and know that you're going to bring, a real buyer to the table.
So well said.
Yeah.
I think, your point, you need to network with us, with the internal broker community, as well as out there trying to find new business. Talk a little bit, Ryan, about work-life balance. We all love this work-life balance thing. You're busy, you're networking, you're doing deals, whether they're high-end or medium-end or whatever they are. You're in this hustle on a regular basis. We all have to sit back and think, breathe, right? How do you handle the work and life balance?
Because it can be.
I hear you. It can be difficult to do, right?
Yeah, no.
What's more priority?
I think the only way, first of all, it helps if you actually really love what you do.
Oh,
because
100%.
then the work feels like life, and when you're living your life, you're also working. It's so it's reciprocal. But that's a tough one. I mean, it's
what balance?
What balance? It really is because
some people say that. What balance, right?
I think the only way to survive it is if you love it, because then you're not paying attention to. I've been spending how much time today with. Before I came here this morning, I have clients that have a townhouse in West Village, and they're out of town, and we're going to be marketing it. And their cleaning lady was coming and they couldn't be there. So they asked me if I could open up for their cleaning lady. So I had to wake up really early this morning just to open that door for them and then get ready and then come here. And so it started at a crazy hour, and I have dinners tonight until
You just don't know what it's not a 9-to-5 regular schedule, right? I said earlier I was very structured coming from IBM. I have a very structured head. However, in this business, you don't go home at 5 o'clock and you don't come in at 9 o'clock, and you work on weekends, right? So you got to keep all that life balance.
Work with people you like.
That's a huge thing.
You have to love it.
First of all, loving it is absolutely the key. I think if I didn't love what I was doing, I think I would have burnt out already. And
Agreed.
I think if you were to ask any of my friends or my girlfriend, they would probably all tell you that I work too much. But
Well, okay, that's commonplace. Yes.
but that I'm always talking about it, thinking about we're out to dinner, but like we're checking emails. I mean, it's just it's just par for the course. I think in the beginning, like I told you when I was told it was more of a lifestyle and not a job. I thought it was so cliche. It's so true. But when you live here, in the city, and you work here and you live here, it really does kind of blend in. So even though you're showing on the weekends, you're also maybe able to grab a brunch, right? You're able to just weave it into your life. And because it's such a highly personal business with our clients, a lot of networking or building relationships is grabbing dinner, grabbing coffee, grabbing drinks, these are things that for me are enjoyable, right? So even though a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're working because you're getting dinner or drinks with clients, like, well, but the client's a really cool person and the client is interesting and they have a background and they, so it's just fun, for me.
As Ryan said a minute ago, you have to love what you do. And I read a quote at the end of the show. I can't remember the exact quote, but if you love what you do and you do it every day, it's not like going to work every day. And I completely agree with that. And yes, we're tired because our days are longer, but it's fun, right? You're doing things with people that you don't do in corporate life, that you don't do from 9 to 5 every day, where you have to, sit and look at a computer. We have, and I think our skills are more enhanced, right? We learn how to communicate better. We learn how to, understand things better. We know how to kind of decipher from our customers, even if it's over drinks or dinner, right? Yeah. They say they want this, but they probably really want that. And we've all been there before. So when you get that personal, and again, in this business, it's all about relationships, right? It's all about relationship. You can't do that in a 9 to 5 kind of, setup. You can't do that. So if you're looking at newer agents coming on board, right, whether they're coming on a team, as you recommended before, or just any agent in general, what kind of advice do you give them coming in, not only for just the luxury market, but just for being successful in our industry? We all know, we've all started, we've all done what we've done. What do newer agents come up to you and ask, and what do you say to them? Because everybody wants to know, how do I do this? Like I said, I had a computer, I had a phone, I had a whatever, and like, okay, well, who's calling, right?
I've always found something strange about our profession is that your exposure is slightly more important than your knowledge, and really it shouldn't be that way. I mean, imagine picking a medical procedure. You're like, do I get the surgeon who has the most Instagram followers, or do I choose the surgeon who's done this procedure the most amount of times? No, but it's an accurate analogy. And
yes, it is.
Because you see these brokers out there that are extremely well networked. They're from very privileged families, which is actually fairly common. It can be a nepo-driven profession in a lot of ways, and they are doing really well as brokers. And not necessarily all of them actually are, I would think, as competent or as educated in real estate as you or I would be with our backgrounds on the commercial and the investment side.
So true.
So I would love for it to be flipped. And that's how I've tried to run my team is be the smartest, and then you will do well. Then people will want to come and refer to you, they'll want to come back to you, et cetera. But you also, as I say this to new agents, you have to be focused on how are you going to meet your clients? How are you going to build your brand? How are you going to gain exposure?
It is a word, brand.
Mm-hmm. Right, it is. And then when they show up, you better know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, to newer agents, if they're coming from, more of a corporate background, I would say, don't expect immediate overnight success. I mean, it takes and in the beginning, you're not drawing a salary, right? So it could be a little bit challenging in the beginning, but if you're really focused on the process of doing your day, put a process into place. Find new. Maybe you start with a family, a friend like I did, who has someone who had a reason to get into the business, right? And then you're showing properties around. You're learning the inventory. You're learning the neighborhoods, and then you could talk intelligently about buildings, and then you could talk intelligently about what different. They don't write down what different co-ops are looking for. Oftentimes, you just have to understand the inventory to understand, if it'll work for the buyer or not. And so I think that putting your head down and like really focusing, going to open houses, seeing the product, being able to intelligently talk about the product is really important. Do not get discouraged when, you're turned down a little bit in the beginning. I think if you really, like Ryan said, going with information, you have to be a source of information. That's our job. You want to be bringing something to the table, right, for clients and potential clients. So I think just being extremely aware of what you're getting into and coming with a lot of information will be really helpful. Don't get too discouraged when you get knocked down. It's not about a quick deal. It's more about building the relationship. And if you have a real good relationship with a client, it will turn to, and I've seen this, I mean, we've seen it so many times now doing this for several years, it'll turn into more clients, right? If you have a real deep relationship with someone where you understand what they are looking for in their life, right? I mean, a lot of, like with a purchase, for example, if you're working with a buyer, you get to know what they really want as their next step in life, not just, an apartment, but how are they growing their family or otherwise. And that kind of relationship, I think, will just help, grow your business also.
Well said. And so, as I've said for years, our business, real estate, is akin to show business, right? Actors in Hollywood, actors in New York, wherever they are. Rejection is part of our career, is part of our life. We learn, or we should learn, when we get rejection. As you just said, it doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean that, that client isn't going to come back again. Some of them are whatever, but most of the time, no, that's not right for me, or no, I don't know what I want to do, whatever. But it's our skill to get them to be where we want them to be. And that's what we do. And that's what we do best. So rejection, believe it or not, is part of what we do on a daily basis. And it's a good thing. Ryan, you mentioned branding. I'm huge on branding. When I teach social media in real estate school, I'm all about branding, right? Tell me quickly, in the few minutes we have left, why is branding so important, not only for you, but for a team and for your overall message out there to the community and potential clients?
It is both how and why people are going to remember you, and also the way you communicate the value that you're bringing to the table. What are your services? I'm more than just an agent. I'm more than just someone who opens a door and tells you how many bedrooms and bathrooms there are. I'm an investment advisor, which I've mentioned on prior episodes with you. I'm looking at this. I'm underwriting this purchase like it's a deal that I was looking to develop. What price do I think you break even? What price do I think you make money? How much money do you need to put into it to make exponentially more, et cetera? So my brand has always been, from the development world, an added level of expertise. Again, that's how people remember me, and that is also what people expect when they come to me.
Well said. Very true. And for you, branding?
We have a similar angle, it sounds like. But yeah, look, I mean,
it works.
It works. And also, to Ryan's point, if you're doing it yourself, like I personally invest in real estate myself, and I'm underwriting my own deals. And if you come to it with that, framework, and you put yourself in their shoes, and you're looking for it to make sense as if it was your own deal, right?
Yep.
And so that's what you really want your clients to take out of it. And I think, as far as brand, I mean, not a shameless plug for BHS, but I think the branding when you're associated with a firm like Brown Harris Stevens is fantastic. I think it's a legacy brand, and I think that really helps. I've actually, gone into a pitch, and the first thing is, what company you're with, Brown Harris Stevens. That lands with people, you know what I mean, when you're in Manhattan. So that's a big part of it, I think, too. Being affiliated with a good
it adds to our own personal branding, for sure.
Personal branding, for sure. And then our team has very focused branding that we do, but depending on the neighborhood and buildings and things. Right. And it's all part of your reputation is there before you, right? So
your reputation precedes you.
Yeah, right.
It really does, right?
Yeah, it gets into the room before you do. So you need to make sure it's stellar.
Yes, it does. Well, look, I mean, award winners, nominees, successful agents in this town, I get the chills, just thinking about how important you guys are to our industry, because you figured out how to make it work. You're making it work on a day-to-day basis. Look, it is not easy. And we talked about challenges. We talked about branding. We talked about a whole bunch of things. But you've got to keep at it. You've got to stay inspired. You got to stay motivated. Take it from these guys, okay? Ryan Kaplan.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank
Cliff
you.
Marks. Always a pleasure. We're coming right back with my thoughts for the week. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my closing thoughts for the week. So, winning awards in real estate, especially in New York City, carries significant weight, as the city is the most important, competitive, and prestigious market in the world. These accolades not only recognize an agent's expertise, market knowledge, and ability to close high-stakes deals, but they also serve as powerful marketing tools that enhance credibility and attract high-end clients. Award-winning agents are seen as industry leaders, setting them apart in a crowded field, and it's a very crowded field here in New York. Such recognition can lead to increased business opportunities, exclusive listings, and valuable media exposure, further solidifying their position in the ultra-competitive New York City real estate landscape. Conversely, losing out on an award can be challenging but doesn't diminish an agent's skills or success. New York City real estate is a fast-paced, competitive industry where not every high-performing agent receives recognition. Missing out on an award can motivate agents to refine their approach, innovate in their strategies, and leverage their experiences to build stronger relationships and improve performance. Loss can fuel growth, pushing agents to rise to new challenges and eventually achieve greater success. In a field as dynamic as New York City real estate, both winning and losing are part of the overall journey. And believe me, it's a journey. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok at Vince Rocco, or my website, thinkvince.com. William Faulkner says you cannot swim for new horizons unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. And isn't that what today was all about? And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.